Just want to state it was a very good meeting that we had in St. Vincent, and we are hoping that the discussions will not only remain discussions, but policy decisions that would lead to actions to address the agricultural sector. I also attended on the 1st and 2nd of October.
Foxy.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Of course, just two announcements of significance. You would have recalled last week we officially commenced the 2024-2025 cruise season with the arrival of two ships, and thereafter, of course, as the season progresses, you'll be seeing more arrivals. We're expecting the calendar year 2024 to be the highest arrivals in any single calendar year, and that surpasses the year of 2019, as well as the highest number of cruise ships that will be docking in the harbor. Of course, you realize that the cruise season is analyzed in two ways. For the national statistics, the social and economic review, it speaks of calendar year. And therefore, calendar year is January to December. And like I said, we will see almost 825,000 arrivals for this calendar year, which is almost 200,000 more than last year's calendar year. But of course, the season crosses over years. So the cruise season actually starts in October, but ends in May. So the cruise season would stretch from October 2024 to May 2025. And for the upcoming cruise season, October 2024 to May 2025, we also expect to have the highest levels of arrivals. So even both at a calendar year level as well as a season level, we're expecting to have the best season, bettering that of 2019. So we're super excited about those possibilities, and we're expecting to see a really vibrant and very, profitable cruise season. It would also witness the start of our collaboration with GPH, Global Ports Holding, and we will see over the next few weeks the commencement of activity in relation to that agreement. Next week, GPH will present to the Cabinet of Ministers the final drawings for the various initiatives, the new vendors arcade, including the rearrangement of the waterfront for parking and traffic management, for the Bannans Bay Fishermen's Village, the boardwalk at the front, at the waterfront, as well as the upgrade of the Soufre waterfront. And of course, since we had the bad weather, there had to be some adjustment of the plans for Soufre. But we will receive next week the final conceptual drawings. And of course, thereafter is to submit to DCA for approvals. So we are seeing progress as it relates to the arrangement with GPH, and we're already starting to see some of the benefits in terms of arrivals in relation to that agreement that we have. And of course, the second announcement would have to be, I'm sure you've heard over the weekend, we had the international launch of 2025 Carnival in Miami. Of course, Miami Carnival is strategically important because of the timing and the appeal of Miami Carnival for Carnival stakeholders. And St. Lucia had a very solid and powerful grouping that went to Miami Carnival. A number of our leading soca artists were in Miami over the weekend, and today, of course, the parade and everything else that's taking place in Miami, St. Lucia is present and very visible. It has worked well for us over the last 3 years. We've launched international launch of St. Lucia Carnival takes place in Miami. Right now, every other Caribbean country is also now going to Miami as well. So it has really evolved as a major, activity, and certainly an exciting one. So St. Lucia, the draft calendar of private events the preliminary calendar was released on the weekend, and we can always make it available to you. You will see an increase in the number of, the events. Of course, you will notice next year, Carnival is always the third Monday and Tuesday. And next year, that would fall, I think, 21st, 22nd of July. So we actually have more days for us to host activities. So we're expecting an exciting calendar of events. We will be continuing our outreach, and over the next few weeks, St. Lucia Carnival will, of course, start to be promoted. In early November, we will be attending World Travel Market, and we will be making some major international announcements as it relates to the Jazz Festival. I think the lineup for the Jazz Festival has progressed quite nicely, and we'll have some really exciting, artists on display. And in London, in November at World Travel Market. And of course, you probably would have heard by then, Julian Alfred will be accompanying us at World Travel Market as a tourism ambassador. And I mean, I don't have to repeat all the things she said about her deep, honor to be a tourism ambassador for St. Lucia, and it will be our first major outing with her in London. There'll be a number of activities organized in London for her. It's going to be a spectacular engagement in London. So we have some exciting news, exciting developments that will be taking place. Tomorrow I'll be hosting a sign-in ceremony, and I'm sure you'll get some more information on this for the commencement of works on a major hotel in St. Lucia. So as we start the tourism season, 2024-2025, there's a lot for us to be cheerful and a lot of us to be happy about. So I'll take any questions you have. Yes, sir.
My first question though is,
Well, he has a mic.
what all you would attribute the arrivals, the increased arrivals? As you said, we basically are recovering from 2019.
Yeah.
The
Well,
COVID
surpassing
pandemic.
2019 now.
Surpassing it. So what would you attribute this to? Is it just recovery in the market, or has it been our marketing, anything that is bringing all these visitors to our show?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. We are seeing the market coming back to normalcy in terms of arrivals, but when you look at our increases, we are quite satisfied with the kind of outreach that we've been doing. The sales and marketing has really been aggressive for us to return to pre-pandemic levels. And you have to put into context, our increases, especially in stay-over visitors, at a time when we have a number of rooms out of the market. So you talk about 2019 when we were at our peak in terms of the number of rooms. But right now, although our numbers are the highest, and for every month we've seen increases in our arrivals over last year, and we're surpassing 2019 by 3%, you have to consider that the Winner Morgan Bay was closed, and it's now going to become Secret St. Lucia, opening in December. So all those rooms were out of the market. You have to consider that the St. Lucian Hotel was broken down and was no longer in operation anymore. And for the last few months, what we used to call Papillon, or the Royalton, was closed down. And the Royal St. Lucian, which was Royalton Mystic, is also closed. So you're really talking about a situation where a number of large properties out of the market, and those rooms not available, but yet our numbers are passing what it was in 2019. And also to add that even in the Caribbean market, we've still not returned to where we were in 2019. Of course, we still have issues of connectivity, and we're struggling, despite all the positive news we've had for the last year, we're still struggling in terms of connectivity. So I think the US market has been really good for us, the Canadian market as well. The UK market is still holding steady, and we're expecting to see, once we can get some of those hotels back on track, further increases.
Are there more port calls, inaugural port calls this time for the season?
Well, we'll have more port calls, but maybe not a higher number of inaugural port calls. We will have some new inaugural port calls, but maybe not as high as we had last year.
How can we maintain the growth that we are currently seeing, or perhaps even surpass that ultimately?
Well, our issue is rooms. We don't have enough rooms in St. Lucia. I just made a point that despite our high numbers, our room stock has dropped. But when you consider some of the properties that will come on stream over the next 2 to 3 years, St. Lucia will increase its room stock by almost 2,000 rooms over the next 2 to 3 years. And the issue is we cannot get more flights if we don't have more rooms, and you can't have more rooms if you're not building, if the airlines are not interested. So it's a kind of chicken and egg. But we expect over the next 2 to 3 years for our numbers to really take off because we will have the rooms. And what's also important is that those rooms are from hotels that have extensive inventories and networks. So, for example, when you look at the Secrets that will be opening, they're part of, Secrets, Dreams, whatnot. The Marriott that will be opening at Point Seraphin and the new hotel at Ridgeway Beach will be part of the Marriott chain. So you're talking about properties that will be opening that are part of international networks, and they have the tremendous marketing and sales, programs that will help us for sure to sell St. Lucia. And we continue to sell St. Lucia and to add, products that we believe will differentiate St. Lucia from all other destinations. We're placing a heavy emphasis on community tourism, and we will be making more announcements, on what we're doing to add to the product to make sure that when we sell St. Lucia, we sell something that is slightly different to what the other territories are selling.
St. Lucia has taken advantage of Miami Carnival to keep up its own. And earlier you said that it's proven to be beneficial. But what I would like to know, is it already reflected in the numbers that we would normally see the following year?
Yeah, massively.
Because some people actually think as of sometimes they think that government is squandering money.
No, my dear. Last year we had almost 18,000 arrivals for Carnival. 18,000.
That's because of the promotion overseas.
Yeah, overseas. This year we had close to 20,000 arrivals in the first 2 weeks. A lot of it for Carnival. And if you're around St. Lucia at Carnival time, you can see the sheer impact of the visitor the visitor influence on our Carnival. And we will continue to grow. Next year will be even bigger than this year. And a lot of it is because of the international promotions that we do. Also to the bands. The Carnival bands do a fantastic job in terms of reaching out to revelers from overseas that do come in, spend a week and a half in St. Lucia. The diaspora, and through the Tourism Authority, we have a program called Lucian Links, which is our diaspora program, where we reach out to St. Lucians to come back for those festivities, for jazz, for Carnival. And we have significant uptake. In fact, I think we're not doing enough. And in early November, I will be going to New Orleans with a couple of persons from the Central Tourism Authority, again to extend that outreach. So we need to do more. The problem is we don't have many rooms to accommodate the numbers. With the diaspora, persons go and stay with their families, with their relatives, whatnot. They stay in more the Airbnbs, but some of the international visitors still looking for rooms. And therefore, I think we can do even more. We can grow the festival even more. Of course, we have to deal with some of the road management issues on parade days, whatnot. But St. Lucia has become known for its extensive offerings in terms of boat rides, beach parties, fetes and concerts, whatnot. So it is important. You have to invest. You have to invest. You can't speak about growing the numbers and you focus just on the domestic market. The domestic market will not bring in 20,000 visitors by itself, so you have to reach out. And we'll continue to do so. For jazz as well, we'll be doing some real big promotions to get more persons to come in. We have next month, the Beach Festival, and it's selling very, very well in terms of the French visitors that will come in. For cricket, again, England will be coming to visit. The success of the Kings is already creating excitement for next year. We now need to think strategically. So one of the things we're thinking about, and we have a meeting in London in November, for us to meet with some Indian travel agents to see how we can start tapping into the Indian market, both in North America as well as in India, because St. Lucia Kings is owned by the same persons that own the Punjab Kings. So there was a buzz in India when St. Lucia won as well. So we need to start seeing how we can leverage this and get even more visitors to come into St. Lucia. Because remember, every time a visitor comes into St. Lucia, there's a certain amount of spend that takes place. you talk about car rental, you talk about food, beverage, you talk about, souvenirs, you talk about just enjoying St. Lucia, visiting sites and attraction. So the more persons you can get to come into the country and the more you can get them to spend in the country is the better for the economy, better, for creation of employment and, government taxes and everything else.
Yes. Also on the sports tourism aspect, I recently spoke to a sports business person and she spoke about the possibility of utilizing the island as a recovery center for athletes. You have the beach, you have the Silver Springs, a natural warm bath, that type of thing. What is the government doing in that regard to utilize St. Lucia as a wellness center for athletes as well, with the rise of Julian Alfred and the Kings as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of wellness, St. Lucia is known as one of the leading destinations for wellness. And when we do get the Mont Pimad development, that would add significantly to our wellness offerings. Specifically, it relates to athlete recuperation. It's a very technical area. You really need to have the facilities in place for athlete rehabilitation and recuperation. And we need something like that in South Africa, not just for sports tourism. We need it for our own international athletes. And some of us have called over the years for a high-performance center that offers the most modern equipment and facilities to allow athletes, our athletes first and foremost, when they do have injuries, to come back home and be able to recuperate and rehabilitate. But also allow for, athletes internationally who may want to come to St. Lucia to rehabilitate.
Yeah, one more question. An update on the underwater sculpture park.
Yeah.
Do we have any updates in that regard?
Yeah, we're making a lot of progress. As this is an area of particular interest for me. The technical team started the dives on the weekend pass to identify the possible locations and sites. So that has started. We have some divers here from overseas who are doing the technical assessment. I think next week we will be announcing the winners of the storyboard competition and presenting them with their prizes. And so that is exciting. But we've started. Yeah, the work has started on this. Yes.
Yes, Minister. Each place no longer is given to operate as taxi.
Mm-hmm.
Each place no longer given to operate as a taxi. How true is this? And each plate holders have been complaining. We know that there have been a number of conferences with persons with each being given to taxi, but we still find there are persons who are complaining. What's the way forward, and what do you have to say to taxi drivers?
Well, I think I've gone over this a few times here at press conferences already, and let me just go over it again. When I became minister, the process had started before me. 15 years we had not issued one TX in St. Lucia, more than 15 years. There were a lot of issues persons had with trying to regularize the sector. But we decided that what we were going to do was to do it in 3 phases. In the first phase, we were going to re-register all existing TX plate holders to ensure that they met all the requirements. The second phase, we asked all persons who had H plates that were involved in tourism transportation to indicate their desire to convert to TX plates. And that has been going on for the last few months. It's been an exhaustive process, but every single person, and I want to repeat it, every single person who had an H plate legally involved in tourism transportation could apply and get it converted to a TX plate. And I want to repeat it, every single person who was legally involved in tourism transportation using an H plate can apply for it to be converted to a TX plate. And the third stage is that we're doing a tourism transportation demand study to tell us how many new TXs we can issue. And when that's completed, it will inform us whether we offer X amount of new TX plates. So you'll have the original TX holders, the converted H2 TX, and the new TX plate holders. And that is the process that is being followed now.
Also, added to that, we find a lot of persons who have been in the taxi industry is complaining the fact that we have more taxi persons coming in and being given TX. They're saying that when they pass in, especially in the government's parking lot,
workers at government buildings, they are also holders to taxi plates. So can you explain that to us? Because they say there's an influx of persons getting TX plates who are not already in the industry.
Again, I explained, there is an increase in TX because everyone who had an H plate involving tourism transportation, who wanted to convert and was legitimately registered, they were converted. And I think there was almost over 1,000 such H plates. But those were persons who were on the road carrying, because there's an entire process, there are documents that you have to provide. So I can't comment on government workers with TX plates back outside the ministries. I can't comment on that. And what I could suggest is probably go around with the camera and take out some of those shots and carry it so people can see who those people are. But I have no such information that there are government workers with TX plates back outside ministries. What I can tell you, though, is that anyone who converts from H to TX has to meet the criteria in terms of documentation and everything else as required by law. So,
Thank you, Minister. Last you were here, you said you would get some information pertaining to BMAS, so you'll be able to update us. Prime Minister last week did say that you briefed him, and you did inform him that the principal, the director, Alexander Milojevic, had transferred his shares, or sold off his shares, since he has gotten into legal troubles. But he did not know to whom the shares had been sold. Can you confirm to us now, at this time, who now has the majority shares for BMAX Caribbean Inc.?
I invite you to wait for Parliament next week, Tuesday, where I will make a minister's statement on the CIP. Of course, it will be after your bombshell on Thursday, but I shall present to... Oh, so I don't know. I heard you. They said there's a bombshell coming this week. There's always a bombshell coming, but I'm going to wait for. Can I ask you to wait for Tuesday, Parliament? I shall make a minister's statement on CIP, and I think you shall be smiling after.
Pertaining to the room stock, can you tell us how the Canals project will be able to augment our room stock?
Simple. It will add rooms.
Yes, how many rooms?
For when it's the Canals project, you talk about the complete project when everything is
Caribbean
finished.
Galaxy, the Caribbean, yes, Galaxy project.
Both hotels and the residences.
Yes.
I think it will probably add, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but certainly over 500.
And in terms of how the timeline for this project, have you visited the site of late, and what is your level of satisfaction with the work?
I have visited it. We have received presentations over the last 2 to 3 weeks by the developer, the construction companies, and we are fully apprised of all the delivery timelines over the next few months.
So as it stands now, are they on target?
Well, they've had some delays, like almost every project in St. Lucia, in terms of raw materials, in terms of delivery, supply chain issues. But yes, we generally satisfied with what was presented.
All right. You've not been able to give us the numbers for whether the passport that Galaxy has been able to sell, because it's for the shares oversubscribed, and also what was allotted. Are you in a position now to inform us?
Again, wait for Tuesday. After your Thursday program, I'm sure I'll answer all the questions you raised then.
And with regard to the infrastructure option?
Again, wait for Tuesday. You will get all the answers that you want.
Tuesday it is. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can always send me some of the questions you might want answered beforehand, just to make sure I answer all your questions.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure you know how to contact me.
I have.
You have. You've had for many years. So.
Yeah.
So all the questions you have, you could have asked me them. I could have answered them. But anyway, let's go on.
But you have not consented to
No,
that's what I've been asking for. Through you
Well, the last time you wanted to interview me, I'm sure you were quite creative in getting me to answer some of your questions. But we can always talk. We'll arrange it. Trust me. Yeah. Well,
we won't split hairs over
nah, we won't. We're better than that.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions on Carnival, on thing? All right, if not, thank you very much, everyone. Yeah.
About the Creole. I know that the communities, but nothing. I'm not no favor, no, there's no like, it's like dead life.
Well, it was a very exciting activity yesterday in Monrepo, and one that I had never even heard of before. Bring all your dirty clothes to the river and let's do some old-time river washing. Let me tell you, that one really tickled me because, you know, I could not even have conceived of such a Creole month activity. But Monrepo yesterday had a very exciting activity. The weekend before, Millet had a soirée. They had a very exciting activity as well in Millet. But there are activities going on all over the place. I see the advertisements. But yes, there is a steady build-up for Creole Heritage Month and for International Creole Day. But I can always indicate to them that they probably need to do some more promotions. Yeah? Thanks. Yeah.
Honorable Alfred Prosper, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development, will now address us.
Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to update the press on some recent activities held by my ministry and also my participation in 2 major events out of country. I want to first start by indicating that World Food Day is held globally on the 16th of October, and this year, the Ministry of Agriculture had a major food festival held yesterday, and I didn't see any one of you all there, surprisingly, held in Lakai at the IRDC, and it brought together hundreds of persons from St. Lucia to actually partake in the various food and all other products that were on display coming from our local farmers. Now, this year the theme for World Food Day is Right to Food for a Better Life and a Better Future. And that speaks to the importance of access to food, and not just food, but nutritious foods that can cause our populace to be healthy. A healthy nation is very important for the future development of any country. And so we had persons coming from Guyana, Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, displaying a range of products made from our local commodities. World Food Day is very important to us, and I'm sure you would recall, or you've been hearing the term 25% by 2025. And so it means that we are supposed to be reducing our food import bill by 25% next year. But you'd understand the challenges that climate change has been having on the agricultural sector. We just recently, sometime in May, June, we had a serious drought, followed by a hurricane in July. And that hurricane impacted the St. Lucia agricultural sector, St. Vincent, Grenada, Jamaica. And so this has caused a setback in meeting our targets for 25 by 25. I recently attended what we call the Caribbean Week of Agriculture that was held in St. Vincent from the 7th to the 11th. And it was really bringing ministers of agriculture, policymakers, private sector, and the key stakeholders in terms of the agricultural sector like FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, CADI, and the CARICOM Secretariat, as well as OECS, to really discuss the sector in the region, or CARICOM to be exact. And one of the areas that we focused on was the whole issue of climate change and how it is impacting the sector. As we speak, there are countries who have not been able to export much of its commodities like usual, especially St. Vincent, to the various countries because of the devastating effect that Hurricane Beryl had on those countries, especially with regards to the agricultural sector. And so we have to take major decisions in terms of how do we address that problem in terms of climate change. And we now we discuss a number of areas like agricultural insurance. Because what you find after a hurricane or storm has impacted the agricultural sector is that it can be very demotivating to our farmers. Our farmers do not have agricultural insurance in the region, and it's causing serious problems for those farmers who suffer major losses but has difficulty actually getting back into the sector. And very often, it takes the government of those countries to compensate those farmers and fishers in the sector. So I just want to mention that the CARICOM Minister of Agriculture, we had a number of ministerial meetings in St. Vincent, and we came up with a plan to chart a way forward to be able to deal with the sector. The issues of transportation within the region was a major issue of concern. Farm labor was also a major discussion because the farm labor issue is not only in St. Lucia, it spans throughout the CARICOM, throughout the region, and concerns were raised as to how to deal with this matter, and recommendations were made in terms of bringing persons from outside, something similar to the Canada Farm Labor Program, where we may have to get maybe various individuals or companies to bring in a number of persons within the region based on their need to be able to address this farm labor problem. Now I know if that happens in St. Lucia, there are political implications to be considered. Because the first thing that will be said is the government of St. Lucia is actually importing farm labor into St. Lucia and is creating further problems for the unemployed young men in the country. But it's a matter that is seriously impacting the agricultural sector. And if we have to reduce our food import bill, if we have to meet our target of 25% by 2025, we need to deal with all those challenges. So I just want to state it was a very good meeting that we had in St. Vincent, and we are hoping that the discussions will not only remain discussions, but policy decisions that would lead to actions to address the ailing agricultural sector. I also attended on the 1st and 2nd of October in Grenada an EU-Caribbean Global Gateway meeting on Sargassum. We all know that Sargassum is becoming a major concern. It's probably one of the major environmental problems affecting the region, and we know how it affects our tourism because the beaches are very often littered with Sargassum. And we had a conference to look at what can be done. How can we convert what we call a challenge to an opportunity? And there was major discussion about how we can use the Sargassum to create or use it for agricultural inputs and all of the other things that we can use the Sargassum to be able to move from a challenge, as I said, to an economic opportunity. But the action points at the end of the two-day meeting was we are going to establish a secretariat as a specific office for Sargassum, and it will be established in Grenada. There was also action in terms of collecting more information, data on Sargassum. There was also concerns that we need to do more monitoring, data sharing, information sharing, because there are countries like Cuba, Guatemala, and those countries that are using the Sargassum and converting it into products that have caused economic opportunities for the young people and other business and private sector-led people in the various countries. We, as you can see when you drive along the east coast of St. Lucia, my constituency in Dennery, Monrepo, Miku, all the way to Vieux Fort, the build-up of Sargassum in terms of littering our bushes and making it difficult because there's a health concern, the stench and everything. People have always been making the point that it is something that needs to be addressed. But as we speak, the government of Japan is, through the UNDP, is working on a project where specified or specialized equipment will be made available to countries like St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, to really deal or to manage the whole sargassum problem in St. Lucia. So I just wanted to mention that, those three areas that I mentioned, just to inform the public as to some of those developments.
Minister, back to the 25% reduction now in what bill by 2025, that regional initiative. What was St. Lucia's target in that, well, this regional initiative? Did we
Well,
have a specific target or-
Well, St. Lucia and all the countries in CARICOM, because the target is a CARICOM target. And St. Lucia's target is the same 25% reduction here like any other country. But the issue we have in St. Lucia, we have a major problem with data collection. Our food production sometimes is extremely high, but now you would go to the supermarkets and see little or no bananas or ripe bananas, simply because we had Hurricane Beryl, and obviously the first set of farmers that would be affected would be the banana and plantain farmers. These plants or trees are very vulnerable to strong winds. But I remember in the first phase of and that is why the seven crops project under the Taiwanese funded program was implemented to help St. Lucia address the problem. But so far, I do not think we have done much. We have achieved much in terms of the target, as I said, because the data is not forthcoming and we have issues collecting the data.
The data is not forthcoming from whom?
From my ministry, and sometimes the farmers do not willingly provide the data.
Okay, so right now we have an issue where you don't see tomatoes so much. Why is it that a crop like that, which is not seasonal, not produced year round? What's
Right, because tomato is very sensitive to consistent high rainfalls. And you would see that not just tomato, but you would not see too many watermelons around this time. You would not see too many cantaloupes around this time because those fruits are actually on the ground. And those plants or crops are very sensitive to consistent heavy rains. In tomatoes, because of the fact that the flowers are very easily damaged from heavy rains, a lot of farmers do not go into production of tomatoes during that time. And that's why from January down to May, June, you'd see a glut in tomatoes. But around this time, it's always a problem.
Okay, so these are not new problems, right?
What's that?
I said these are not new problems. These are
Yes.
situations we would know
And so this
of
is why,
for decades we would
Yes.
know of why we have glut or why
Yes.
we have scarcity.
Right.
The same way the region would know we have the climate change issues, we have heavy rainfall, we have stronger storms, we know that. So in the planning of this whole initiative, did not the region consider these issues, the challenges that you would have encountered in actually meeting your targets for you to address these issues, like the data issues, the other
yes.
issues?
Well, you will not know when a hurricane is coming. No one knows that, eh? Drought. We never expected to have a drought period in August last year. So I'm just saying these are things that we have no control of. But under the World Bank program, we realized that during the period of the rainy season, what we call shade agriculture is the way to go. And this is why under the World Bank program, we are going to assist more than 200 farmers with greenhouses. But if you drive past those areas, you'd see the metal structure, but the plastic is missing. So we are going to make available plastic to those farmers in addition to purchasing or procuring 45 new greenhouses under the program. Because we cannot be saying every year that because of that period, August to December, we can produce tomatoes. There are ways, new technology that can be used to do it, but it's costly to some of the farmers because the greenhouses, during hurricanes and other natural disasters, they are destroyed and it's costing farmers quite a bit to be able to replace the plastic. The structures are there, as I've said, and if you go around, you'll see the structures are there, but they have no cover.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but that's what I'm asking, because these are not new issues and the technologies are not new
Right.
either.
But the technologies
Right.
cost money.
Understood.
That's right.
But as a regional initiative, Carnival initiative, why is it? Because what I'm seeing from my assessment, and because I've listened to a few of your meetings over the past few years, it seems there isn't a political will, I think, to really put agriculture to the focus that needs to be on agriculture. We're not seeing that because
Wow.
what you keep hearing is excuses. That is my opinion.
That's your opinion. But let me. Okay, sorry.
When you look at the studies that the FAO would have done and other international agencies, they bring up the same problem. So it tells me that we are not listening to what they're saying I mean, okay, now you're saying this, but I'm sure 5 years from now, we'll have either you or another Minister of Agriculture repeating the same thing.
Yes. Now,
Right? So what is that plan to deal with these issues?
so I just want to tell you, new technology is the way to go in agriculture. Because our farmers, we have been doing the same thing all the time, and we have to change. Because climate change is actually forcing us to do that. It is telling us that the way we were doing things 10 years ago, must change. And this is why we've procured fertilizer to assist our farmers. We're giving our farmers over 1,000 gallon water tanks because we understand the importance of storage of water, the greenhouse agriculture. We are doing that. And when you say that the support for agriculture is not there, we are going to receive in the next few months $144,000 from the government of Guyana to set up an agricultural innovation project at Union. The site is going to be cleared very shortly for that to happen. We are going into insurance. Insurance that is very critical for the sector because every year, every time there is a natural disaster, our government has to take taxpayers' money to assist the farmers, and we have to do that because food security is important. But we must move from the practices of the past and to move in a direction where we focus on what we call climate-smart agriculture. It will not happen overnight. You have to go through a transition because you have to educate your farmers. The farmers and fishers have to understand the importance of it as well. But this is the direction we must go, and this is where our government wants to take this sector to be able to deal with all those challenges that you mentioned.
One more question,
Yep.
if I pass on to my colleagues who seem to be weary right now.
Yes.
With regard to the introduction of farm labor from outside,
Yes.
what expertise that it is that we don't have that we need from abroad?
You see, the farmers are saying that they are not getting the labor support that once existed. There is a farmer in Soufrière with 30 acres of good agricultural land, but he's saying he may have to leave the sector because he needs about 20 workers, but he only gets about 3 or 4. I don't know what has happened to some of our young people, but they do not seem to be attracted in terms of providing farm labor. Now, if you have an issue with farm labor, obviously the production will be impacted. And this is why we saw this. And currently we have 115 workers providing assistance to more than 200 farmers by helping them reduce the cost of production. Because it's one thing to come in and say, I'm paying this gentleman $60 a day. But at the end of the day, you invest, but when you harvest, you have a hurricane or you get a glut in the market and you cannot really get the profit or the income that you expect at the end. So it's a problem. And it's not a problem only in St. Lucia. St. Vincent, all islands in the region did indicate that is becoming a major problem. Dominica is already getting labor from Haiti. But I wish we would not have to go that way because we have so many young men who are available, who are unemployed. But they seem not to be attracted by that kind of, activity on the farms.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah, well, that would be great.
a step.
A step program. Very good.
So then, along those lines, Minister, what then is the status of the Youth in Agriculture program? Because I believe when it was conceptualized, that really was the thrust to get
That's
young
right.
people into it. So what has happened to that program, and why are we not seeing that desired result to transfer them into
That program is a failure. We actually engage a number of young people in the South, and if you drive down to Choiseul, you'll see those massive greenhouses that were assigned to a few of the young persons. They only spent, I think, a year or two, and they actually abandoned the project.
Do we know why that is?
I think it is because their concern had been financial support, which I do not think was the case because we had an arrangement with a particular bank to provide the support, but they just eventually left. And now we are actually upgrading those greenhouses to lease to other farmers. I mean, we know the issues that our young people have. I don't want to just blame our young people. There are a number of young people that, since I became the Minister of Agriculture, that are generating interest in agriculture. I speak to them, I make remarks to them very often when the Taiwanese would train them in various operations in terms of the sector. But I believe there is something that has to happen to get them in. And I believe it's new technology and innovation. I think that is what will attract the young people. But it's a concern to me, it's a concern to the government, and it's supposed to be a concern to every single St. Lucian, because if we do not get the young people to be attracted in agriculture, the older folks who have been there 40 and 50 years ago, they are on their way out. And what is going to happen, we're going to have a serious gap. And it's going to make more problems for us in terms of our food import bill, food security, etc., etc. But it's a very good question, and I agree with you. We need to do more to get them interested in agriculture.
Just two other questions before I move on to my colleague. With respect to food security, are we now less secure? Given all that you have said, would it be your conclusion that we are now less food secure at this time?
I would not say we are less food secure. I don't think we have reached a crisis in St. Lucia where we cannot get food, except soon after a major hurricane. But I believe that our food import bill is too high, and we need to do more to reduce it drastically.
And one other question, we know that CARICOM had made
Target.
Guyana, pardon me,
Yeah.
Guyana, in line with what the CARICOM did. Guyana did make a proposal of being able to use some of the land mass that
Right.
it has.
Yep.
Has St. Lucia ever looked into that?
There is no need for us to plant anything outside of St. Lucia. We have a lot of land space. If you drive down the east, you drive down the west, you drive down the parts of St. Lucia, you will see a number of the abandoned banana fields. And we have a program where the government made an allocation, I think it's about $350,000, for us to go in and rehabilitate those abandoned lands. So I think we have enough land. I think what we need to do is to really continue to provide the support to our farmers so we can encourage them to produce more of what we eat.
Thank you very much.
And lastly, from me, still on the 25 by 25 target, are we doing what's required of us to ensure that we're making a valuable contribution? Because that is such a lofty goal, and honestly, I don't see us accomplishing that by 2025. So are we really playing our parts?
Well, all the countries are playing a part. But you see, the part that we play is to increase our production. But our production cannot only be increased in watermelons, in cucumbers, and sweet pepper. We have to increase it in all of the basic commodities like cabbage and tomatoes. And we need to have a year-round production level that may even allow us to export the excess. We are doing that, but there are challenges. Challenges we have no control of, like climate change. I mean, our farmers just recovered from the last year hurricane in June, storm in June, I can't remember the name. And they were ready to market their bananas late last year, December, into January. And soon after, we have another hurricane. So every time they are getting ready to make money, generate an income, a regular income, natural disasters are impacting their ability to do that. So, yes, we want to achieve that target, which I know, based on discussion in St. Vincent last week, we may not be able to achieve that target because of all those challenges that we did not anticipate would happen.
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Good morning. I'd like to deal with 3 issues. One, the latest unemployment statistics. 2, the First National Bank issue. And 3, I have a bombshell. Which one do you want first?
First National.
Which one you want? I tell you 3 of them. I tell you unemployment, I tell you First National, I tell you a bombshell. Which one do you want first?
First National.
First National. Well, as you know, the First National Bank is a purely private entity. The government has no shareholdings in the First National Bank, but as a Minister of Finance, the climate of the financial system is important to me. I've been concerned at the labor stoppage at First National, and I'm calling on all parties to get back to the bargaining table as soon as possible to ensure that work continues, not interrupted work, but work continues smoothly at First National. As to the issues, I have not been briefed on the issues, as I said, because the bank is a purely private entity, but I will be making a call to the chairman of the bank to ask him his side of the story, and I also will be calling the Labor Commissioner later today. But we hope that good sense prevails and the workers return to work as soon as possible. And that will have to be the responsibility of management to get together with the workers so that we can end up with a win-win situation. But as a Minister of Finance, I'm very concerned of any instability in the financial system. And First National Bank being out of work can create some level of instability in the system.
Just for the record, the workers are going back to work officially today because they're meeting with the union and the Labor Department. So I suppose good things will prevail. And is that something that you're encouraging?
Well, I'm very pleased. As I said, actually, I have not been briefed. I'm very pleased that the workers have gone back to work, and I hope that doesn't augur again, not only in the First National, but in any financial institution, that because, we want a harmonious relationship to exist between workers and employers, and this is why we passed a minimum wage, so we could get, workers should be able to give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, and I'm very happy that has happened.
Prime Minister, the matter was referred to the Labour Minister, who indicated that she would address the issue at a meeting on the 29th of this month, which many are saying is too late given the urgency of the situation. What he said is that she'd had to travel.
I agree with you, it was too late.
Shouldn't this be addressed now? Couldn't she put the other matters on hold given the urgency of the situation?
Well, I'm just told that the workers have gone back to work, so something has happened. So I'm very pleased that the workers have been back at work.
Doesn't this issue speak to a deeper, maybe challenge in the banking sector? Because we saw Bank of St. Lucia workers striking not too long ago, now First National Bank, and other institutions, just from my speaking to people, might be also on the verge of doing certain things. I hope not, but might be also on the verge of...
Other institutions like?
Banking institutions, so other banks.
Oh, St. Lucia has 3 banks, so the other one is First Caribbean, right?
Well, Republic Bank is
Public Bank, yeah. You see, I just wanted to make that clear. Banks are private institutions. The government of St. Lucia, you may not believe it, is not the majority shareholder of the First National Bank. At the Bank of St. Lucia. You may not know, it's not. The government of St. Lucia as an entity is not the major shareholder at Bank of St. Lucia. Government's involvement in the private sector, in the banking sector, is done basically through the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, who are the regulators. So the government of St. Lucia, in terms of banking, except the development bank, where the government is the only shareholder, the government is not involved in the private banking private banking business, except the development bank. So First National Bank is a completely private entity. Bank of St. Lucia, private entity with government having shares. Government as an entity in itself is not the major shareholder. So these issues have to do with management and the workers. And as you know, any government interference in banking, we are called PEPs, politically exposed persons. That puts us at a great disadvantage, even in our private matters, dealing with banks. So I just want you to read that the government doesn't just enter into the bank like before. The government was the main shareholder at Bank of St. Lucia. Government is not the main shareholder at Bank of St. Lucia. The next issue is the unemployment. The Central Statistical Office has published the latest labor force data for the second quarter of 2024, which is April to June. The national quarterly unemployment rates for the first half of 2024, that is January to June, have declined to record low levels in over 12 years. From April to June 2024, the unemployment rate averaged 11.25%. This is the lowest quarter two unemployment rate since 2012. The quarter two unemployment rate of 11.25% in 2024 represents a 2% decline compared to the same period in 2023 and a 6.2% lower than the quarter two unemployment rate in 2022. The job numbers for the first 6 months of 2024 are at an all-time high. And you may recall I've told you that my aim is to get unemployment to single digits. If the trend continues, barring any unforeseen circumstance, I believe that St. Lucia will attain the single-digit unemployment rate, if not in the next quarter, the quarter after. I'm very pleased with that growth, and we hope it continues, barring any unforeseen circumstances, which I mentioned to you the last time.
We see the record unemployment rate levels, but what exactly has the government done to encourage these levels? Because we see the figures, but we don't always know what happens behind the scenes. So can you tell the public
what happens behind the scenes is new businesses. They create an enabling environment, creating the environment for business to expand, creating the youth economy where young people are given grants, creating the MSME where people are given 70% loan and 30% grants, creating an enabling environment as far as incentives are concerned, in that the government does not get involved in the incentive nature. So you don't have to go to a minister's office to wait. These processes and procedures have been hastened, have been clarified. The Prime Minister is not the final arbiter when it comes to giving incentives. The new Tourism Development Act has been passed. There are a number of interventions the government has taken to make business more transparent and to make business easier for people, plus the fact that the economy is benefiting from the expansion of the tourism industry. This year, our cruise figures will be in excess of 800,000 cruise passengers will be coming to St. Lucia this year. And then we are hoping that we can get, in fact, the Minister of Tourism, I have told you, that we're getting the Rangers back in gear, because the Rangers were stopped in 2016 by the last government. So we get the Rangers back so we can enhance the security for our visitors in terms of our cruise passengers that come to St. Lucia. So the economy is expanding. It is clear that the economy is expanding. It is clear by the figures. It's clear by the unemployment figures. And hopefully we should get to a historic single-digit unemployment in this country, something that has never happened before.
Thank you for outlining what the government has been doing. However, in the publication of this stats, the Department of Statistics would have provided which sectors or which jobs it is that you see
Of course.
the influx. What sectors?
It would be construction and tourism. The construction, and in fact, that's coming to my other bombshell. That there are 3 mega projects to be launched in St. Lucia momentarily. One, the Pope site, the Rodney Bay Shopping Center. Work has started on this project. Number 2, 2 hotels are commencing shortly on Redwood Beach. The lease is going to be signed tomorrow. And the 2 hotels that are there are going to be demolished. 2 new hotels are going to be built on that site. The 2 existing hotels are going to be demolished. Number 3, the Mont Pinal Hotel. Workers have started on the Mont Pinal Hotel. So hopefully, before the year is ended, we should have more than 500 construction jobs. We should also add to the unemployment, reduce the unemployment levels. So this is a great bombshell. I mean, treat it like a bombshell. 3 mega projects starting at one time in the country.
So that is, just for clarification, that is Starfish and Mystic that will be
Taken down. Yes. The lease is going to be signed tomorrow.
The projects will
The lease is going to be signed tomorrow. Workers started on Mont Pinal and work on the Rodney Bay Shopping Center, as well as the land has been cleared, etc.
But these are temporary jobs in the long run, right?
All jobs are temporary. Mine is.
With all the concern, PM, and you very often stress climate change, what are some of the resilient factors you coming into play here with the rebuild of these 2 hotels on the beachfront?
Okay. First of all, we have in all these hotels the factors to mitigate against climate change are taken into consideration. First of all, climate change is a real situation. Climate events are real situations. You could so what do we do? In terms of things like water harvesting, we are ensuring that all these projects have their water harvesting capabilities. In terms of renewable energy, in terms of new forms of energy, all these hotels. So in terms of environmental precautions, environmental safety, environmental concerns, all of these are taken into consideration as far as this project is concerned. Right now, you cannot build unless these things are taken into consideration. In terms of, there is no way that any government or anybody can decide when a Hurricane 2 will turn into Hurricane 5 overnight. There's absolutely no way. What we can do is put the measures in place and hope, and I can say hope, that the hurricanes do not create untold devastation. But to tell you that we can sit here and see X is going to happen to avoid certain things, we can't. This is something that we have not got any control over. But the buildings are being built to mitigate and to adapt to the climate situation.
But if we keep using our beachfronts, Prime Minister, and I'm sure you were sensitive to that, it places not just the investors and the investment at risk, but it also leads to that sort of devastating effect for the island itself. And I'm speaking specifically of whether the tourism industry in St. Lucia and the rest of the region, if we continue to do those beachfronts, will be insurable at all, because there's a lot of talk, and you would know this, within the international insurance industry. And the cost then will be passed on to the very visitors that we're trying to attract, and in the long run, making us quite unaffordable.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. The insurance is an issue. In fact, I am supposing to work with Prime Minister Mia Motley on insurance because, as you know, you're right, insurance costs are very high, but investors have measured their risk. And if investors measure the risk, investors want to invest, the government will not say, do not invest because we think that there'll be some situation in the future. The investors have done all the analysis, just like you, just like me, and they've found that the risk can be taken, and they are taking it. So just hope for the best.
Will there ever come a time when the government of St. Lucia will take a policy position about building hotels on the beaches?
That position has not been taken now. I don't know for the future.
So we just maybe an update on what's happening with the Poale Beach. We know
The who?
the Poale Hotel, an update on it. The hotel that have been abandoned for a while.
Oh, yes,
Can
yes,
you
yes.
give me an update on that?
The update is that investors have come forward. In fact, we have an agreement with an investor to restart that project, but that hasn't come to fruition yet.
My second question is the minimum wage. The minimum wage have been rolling around for a while between governments coming and going.
No. The minimum wage will start from the first. It hasn't been rolling around nowhere.
No. Listen, it has been there. Governments come and go. You're the only one to implement it. Just give me your feeling about you coming. The only one. Government come, government go. But you implement it.
We've done a lot of.
Yes, you understand.
I'll tell you something. I don't want you.
Hold on, sir. Let me give you my follow-up question. And today we have different business houses who support and who do not support the minimum wage. Let's give me your thoughts on that, please. Thank you.
You see, I'll tell you something. Any policy must be aimed at the greater good of the majority. Every policy should be aimed at the greater good for the majority. Now, in the environment that we live now, in the environment of the Ministry of Truth, anything and everything, people will create their own history. And that is what people will create their own history. Fact is, this government is the first government that has implemented a living wage. That's a fact. Secondly, we are the first government that have increased pensions. That is also a fact. So that the history that can be created is going to be history that will be created. People will make up their own history. That was the intention, or it should be higher. Well, but you live in that world, so you understand. But what I want to tell you is that I want to urge businesses to look at the bigger picture. Initially, it may cause a cash flow issue for some businesses, but with the expansion of consumption, and the economists will tell you there's a marginal propensity to consume, particularly at lower income levels. So that is a fact of the subject. At lower income levels, people consume more. So I'm urging businesses to be patient in terms of what is the multiplier effect of the increase in the minimum wage. So it's going to be rolled out this month, but also, you must also note it's for a 40-hour week. And this is why we opened the labor office, the minimum wage office, to explain to people clearly how this thing works. But tell you the truth, regardless of the history that's written, I'm very pleased that I was the Prime Minister, together with a government of the Labour Party, to implement the first minimum livable wage in St. Lucia. And even though the history is contorted, the facts will remain the same. And as also the first Prime Minister to increase pensions for people on NIC from $300 to $500. I'm very pleased that I have had the opportunity of my cabinet to do that, and the history even though it's changed, even though it's rewritten, cannot change that.
Okay, Kim, I have
Yes.
two questions for you.
Yes.
The first one is there a shortage of medical supplies at ONP Hospital? The second, did some of our doctors resign, at least five, sorry, and what's the latest with St. Louis Hospital?
Is there a shortage of medical supplies at the to ask you a direct question, is a shortage of what medical supplies? What? They always say, well, I'm not sure myself. I will ask the Minister of Health to help in this regard. And I also heard, I don't know if you heard, after the problems, the Hurricane Helen in Miami, that there was a shortage of stuff for dialysis in Miami, supply chain problems, because they said the factory was destroyed. How that impacts Donald T. You know, it's always very easy to not to find the causes for certain things. Now, we do not produce medical supplies in St. Lucia. The Minister of Health was in Dominica on Wednesday dealing with medical supplies, the supply chain for medical supplies. We do not create medicines in St. Lucia. We do not. We have to import it. And there are issues down the supply chain as they relate to medicines and medication. Many issues. Whether there's a shortage of certain medical supplies, I cannot say yes, I can't say no. I will find out. What I know is that we've put in $11 million into OKU to help pay debt from 2016 and 2017. And right now we are having an audit on debt that was due from the Ministry of Health long before July 2021. We started with heavy debt in the Ministry of Health, which we now are going to clear up. There's an audit to ensure that these figures for the payables are correct, and I'm going to make a statement on payment of these debts in a very short time once I have the information. So I don't want you to rewrite the history and pretend that from July 2021 there's been shortages at OKU. Not that we are making excuses. We are saying it's something that was happening and we've taken decisive steps. We haven't spoken about it. We haven't blamed anybody. We've spoken the facts and we've taken decisive steps by putting $11 million in to OKU. A decisive step, a measurable step, not a talk step. And we also going to clear, I'm told, that we owe France, the French government, $2.2 million from 2001 for medical services that St. Lucians took in France. I'm going to try to pay it. I'm taking a decisive step to pay it. You understand? So our job as a government is to do things that are measurable, not do things that people think about or talk about it in the atmosphere. You can go, and I'm going to give you that challenge to go out and look at the manifesto of the Labour Party, the things we said we would do, and checklists. I put a challenge to you that we, as a people, will go in one day and take a checklist on things we did, not things we say we would do, or not things we would have done, or not things that we had as a rendering, real things. That's one. Number two, in terms of St. Jude Hospital, work is going on at St. Jude Hospital in a satisfactory manner. The 4 buildings are going to be completed very soon, the 4 buildings, and work is going on in the rest of the hospital. So I'm very, very pleased with what's happening there. For the first time, we have a designated line of finance for St. Jude. For the first time. So we have the money to compete St. Jude for the first time. For the first time. But you must also know that we are carrying debt for St. Jude, which we are paying. We've meeting the responsibilities because we are a responsible government. We are carrying debt for St. Jude, which we are paying. Well, why should we be doing that? The St. Jude Hospital expansion and renovation is continuing, and very shortly we'll be able to give you a date when that long horror will end.
On St. Jude's, when I given us a tour on St. Jude's, and my third question is, we understand some doctors resign, about 5 of them. Can you speak to us on that?
I heard so, that some doctors resign. It's not a situation which I'm happy about, but people always need to look for greener pastures, and again, that's nothing new. Doctors resign and they come in all the time. We pretend that these things are new. It never happened before in television's history. As I said about, you must really read the Ministry of Truth, the rewriting of history. You must really read. It's a fantastic book. I really want you to read it. I have a copy. I want to give Shane a copy to read. It's really a really good book to read. I really want you to read it. Yes. Yes. The who?
HIA redevelopment project.
Yes.
I believe that was included in your manifesto as well.
Yes.
Can you tell us how far we are with that project as of now?
Sure. The HIA preferred, as I told you, as you know, it's in two components, right? It's the runway part, which is a cat cop project, and there's a terminal, and the terminal and the control tower. The control tower work has been going on there, but recently they've stopped work on the control tower because there's been some rearrangement with the contractor. The contractor and SLASPA, they've come to a mutually acceptable position where the contractor will stop working on the tower, and the new contractor will be chosen. It was done amicably and done well. So we're waiting for that process to continue, so work can continue on the control tower. As far as the terminal is concerned, is that we got a consultant and consultants to look at a reconfiguration of what existed for the terminal building. I was not putting St. Lucia through that expense. We've got a new configuration, and we also know that the largest infrastructure project in St. Lucia will have been built without tendering. The largest infrastructural project in St. Lucia would have been built without tendering, would have been built by one man deciding who to do it. Very soon, we are going to be tendering. SLASPA is going to be tendering for the construction of the new terminal building. That tender will be, I am told, should be out before the end of the year. It's going to be an international tender. When that happens, we're going to have the tendering process going through, and a contractor will be selected, and work will commence on the terminal building. But while you speak, work on the CADCOP building, which is the CADCOP project, which is the highway, is continuing.
Okay. Going back to youth unemployment, my question is not directly linked, but it is connected. You said that you want to ensure that each household in St. Lucia produces at least one university graduate. It is a nice idea, but do you think it is actually feasible?
All things are possible with God and man. But it's an ideal. You see, I'm glad you asked that question. You see, this is my philosophy. My philosophy is we always look at the glass half full. I have hope in the people of St. Lucia. I believe in the young people of St. Lucia. I believe in them. I have hope in them. Right? My job as the Prime Minister is to create the enabling environment for these young people to do it. Lots of things are happening. I was in Mexico. I'm thinking that very soon I'll be able to make some announcements on scholarships in Mexico. You see, good things are happening. Many good things are happening. The government has given out hundreds of scholarships over the last year. So that's where we get into. So we are striving to get to the top. Julian Alfred showed we can get to the top. What I want to happen in this country is we have to stop this peddling of negativity and not having any faith or confidence in ourselves. We must have more faith and confidence in ourselves as people. I'm not asking anybody to have faith and confidence in politicians. In ourselves as people, we must stop this negativity in our country. It's not good for us. It's not good for the country. I've said so several times before. For all those who have ears, let them hear. My job is a temporary job. Whilst I'm there, I'll try my best. It's a temporary job. So there's no need you try to burn the house to kill the rat if you think the rat is disturbing you. Find a way. Put a rat trap. Don't burn the house. Because when you burn the house, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to preside over the ashes. We've been there before, you know. We've been there before. I don't know if you remember. In 2016, many promises were made, you know. We've been there. We've been there. In 2016, many promises were made. Things were stopped and this and that. Look at look at the end result of that. You know, as a people, we must always remember our history. What we try to do now is to rewrite that history. But remember the facts of that history. We were there before in 2016. We were there before. And 2021 came. We were there before. Including COVID. We never thought COVID would come. COVID came. So let's not believe that when we burn the house, we'll be able to rebuild it because we've changed the Prime Minister. No. Not going to be rebuilt. We were there before. And look at what happened. So I just want to tell you, let us as a country be a little more positive.
Professor, new information has come in is that the First National Bank employees are still, well, they're not on strike, but there is a current sick out, so the issues at the bank are still not.
You still here?
Yes, so do you think the Labour Minister should be called back?
I will have a call in with the Labour Commissioner and the chairman of the board as soon as I leave here. I'll have a call into it. Yes, you want to? Yeah.
Question to you. A little bit on crime. The CC.
The who?
The CC. Cameras. Your position is accusing.
The what?
Your position saying it doesn't work and it affects crime. What's our status?
That is not true. That's not true. That's not true. That is not true. The CCTV works. The CCTV works. It works and it works. You see, and I cannot, you think that if you are very serious about crime in a country, you will alert criminals that the cameras work or not? Do you think that's a really responsible position to take? Do you think that's a really responsible position to take? That even though you know they don't work, which is not true, you'll alert prisoners, you'll alert criminals? You think that's responsible? Do you think that's responsible? Do you think a responsible opposition should do that?
There's a lot of unrest in Martinique at this moment. Are you concerned that what's happening in Martinique is a threat to us here in St. Lucia? And given the close ties between us and Martinique, and that people always travel back and forth here. And the third one is also, are you concerned that such a thing can happen here with our own high cost of living?
Martinique is a colony of France. Saint Lucia is a department of France. Saint Lucia is an independent country. Remember some time ago when you all ridiculed me, or some people tried to ridicule me, when I said Martinique is part of Europe. You all was ridiculed. I mean, for reasons I never knew why. I never knew why I was ridiculed. But that happens when you're in my job. What happens to Martinique is, being a department of France, the people of Martinique expect to have the same benefits as France. Saint Lucia is an independent country. So the situations are very different.
That's it? Prime Minister, one final question. On the infrastructure option, can you update us on the roads? Has the government done identification of that as yet?
Well, on Tuesday next week, the report from the CIP unit, the annual report, is going to be tabled in Parliament. I expect the minister to make a statement. I expect him to give an update as to where all these things are. That's his responsibility. I expect him that next Tuesday. What I can tell you is that we are proceeding with our year of infrastructure. The government had also allocated some money for the infrastructure, which is happening now. You see Social Road is starting. Going to some roads in the north starting. So our infrastructure, as far as the government is concerned, is going fine. As far as the infrastructure option is going to be, which you spoke about, the minister will advise on Tuesday.
Is that to say that the government has not yielded any revenue as yet from Caribbean Galaxy regarding that?
As far
Or
as
no allocated passports sold as yet?
the minister will have the answers for that, but let me tell you only what I've said before about passports. And you know, it's the sad thing that we use the word passports. What I've said before, very clearly, when a document, when a citizenship is allowed by the CIP unit, a citizenship by the CIP unit, it's converted into a passport. The passport is given by the Department of Immigration, just like for you and for me. So there's a fundamental difference between giving the physical passport and what happens before. There's a fundamental difference. I've tried to make that point very, very clear. We use the word passports very loosely. It's a fundamental difference. When a passport is given, three things have happened. One, there's been a bond. Two, there's been an investment in National Economic Fund. Or three, there's been an investment in a real estate option. That's what happens when a passport is given. And that's all I can say for now. I've made that point so many times before that me as Minister of Finance, what I want to know is when a passport is delivered, these three things have happened, either of them. So they must account to me what has happened when a passport is given. I've made that point so many times before. I don't know why it's very difficult for that point to be understood, which is my role as far as that's concerned. The minister will speak on Tuesday about the other things. But me, that's what my concern is. I've made that point so many times, I don't, people just, as if even they're not hearing it, or they choose not to hear it. I don't know what was happening. All the other things that you speak of, the minister said, if you, he said to you, we will lay the report in the Parliament. The report people thought had disappeared, it will lay in the Parliament. When that's laid, the minister will make a statement. At that time, the minister can be asked whatever question you want about a statement. As a Minister of Finance, I am, again, don't shoot the messenger. As the Minister of Finance and Minister of National Security, what is of my paramount importance is that when any individual has a St. Lucian passport, the document in his hands, he is a person of good repute.
Mr. Fenhosen, sir. St. Kitts did not see the delivery of the infrastructure project that Caribbean Galaxy should have done there. Are you concerned at all that St. Lucia may find itself not being in receipt of whether it be the infrastructure programs from Caribbean Galaxy or the hotel that Caribbean Galaxy is building?
I'm concerned about any investment that doesn't happen. I'm very concerned about any investment. Anything that will stymie the development of the country, I'm concerned about it. I'm very concerned about it. But what I can do, I can't speculate. I have to wait and see. I can't speculate. I can't speculate in the future. I can't. I have to wait and see. But what I tell you, and it's a point that I want you to listen to and understand, my concern is that when an individual gets a passport from St. Lucia, a passport, when he has the thing that says the Minister of Finance gives to Lisa Joseph passport of St. Lucia, that individual is a person of good repute. He or his dependents. That's my gravest concern. You can hit me, you can figure that is not right, but that's my concern.
But with the allegations that Caribbean Galaxy would perhaps have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that should rightfully be in St. Lucia, have you looked into this?
I have not. I understand about the escrow account, and I've been informed that the escrow account has been reconciled, or has been reconciled, or is being reconciled, or was reconciled. So I can only go with the information that I have.
And that information was given to you as of when?
The reconciliation, first of all, you should ask first one question. The escrow account was supposed to be in St. Lucia. You must ask why and who approved it for it not to be in St. Lucia. First question.
But you also did say that the banks did not want to touch the CIP escrow account.
I didn't say so. I said, no. I said, get me right. And you must tip me. I said, it's very, I did something, Lisa.
Right here.
Lisa, I want to tell you something that's I said that anyone who goes to escrow account must be properly, the due diligence must be clear. And some banks have concerns about the due diligence as far as escrow accounts are concerned. I said so. But I didn't say the bank did not. Get me right. But because I've always spoken about due diligence. I've been persistent and consistent. You seem to forget that, but not you. People forget that. My only discussion has been on due diligence, My only discussion. Anytime I speak about the CIP, what I say is due diligence. That's all I say. And if you go back, you check the records, but conveniently, people cut piece, take another piece, join together, and to create the hype. But I've always been consistent, Lisa, on due diligence. And I know you're a truthful person, you'll agree. I've always been consistent. I've been consistent I've been consistent on two things. One thing, due diligence, and two, let the courts decide. I've been consistent on that, and I've also said, if the courts find anybody guilty, I will take action. I've been consistent on that.
And you didn't tell me as of when your information about the reconciliation?
I've been, again, you see, Lisa,
Sir, that's your final question.
Lisa, you want to ask me these questions, and I know you don't intend it to be trick questions. No. Nah, I know. You want me to give you dates. But the Prime Minister said on the 8th of July. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
An approximate?
What I'm going to tell you is that when I asked, I was told that the escrow accounts reconciled. I'm not going to get, I don't get caught. You see, we dealing, I tell you something. What are they doing if is the entire scenario to bring me into disrepute. Yes, I'm convinced about it. And it started a long time ago with house at Cap Estate, BMW bought by businessmen. It's a long time. So right now, it's so I have to be. I'm going to always speak the truth. And when I make an error, I'm not God. I say I made an error. You know, there are some people who believe they are gods. They are engineers, they are psychologists, they are mechanics, they are doctors. They can judge the cleanliness of buildings. They can know whether somebody is clean or not clean. Honestly, I'm not like that. I stick to my core competencies, and I take advice, and I make my decisions based on advice. I've told you so a long time ago, and that is why you see some of my critics say, I don't know, I know. What I know is I have to be careful what I say, because if I was not careful with what I say, the kind of traps that have been set for me are the falling into already. Thank you very, very much. Saying you okay? I want you to read that book. I have a copy. In fact, must have in my office. You want it now? I have it.
Sign it too, you know.
No, it's not mine, huh?
No, I want an autograph by you. I
Yeah.
want an autograph.
I'll get one. I have it. I have it. You must read it. You must read it. You must read it to see what you're up against. Not you. What we up against in that scenario.
Okay, because I have to make sure.
What young journalists are up against.
Yeah, we buy.
I know.
Prime Minister